What I'm about to share with you is one of the most fundamentally important principles in not only business, but in also life. And as I explain it to it, you're going to see instances of it in your life that are there now that you've never possibly noticed before. It's called the 80-20 principle or the Pareto principle. And it's named after this famous Italian economist. He was an economist. He was what they'd call a polymath. He was really quite clever at a bunch of different things. But what he noticed was that in his garden at home, that 20% of the flowers or the vegetables were producing 80% of the crop. Now, I've mentioned before that I'm an engineer, so you've got to be a little bit patient with me, and I've used a graph here to help explain how this principle works. What the principle states is that 20% of our input, our actions or activities will produce 80% of our results. If we look at this on the curve, what that looks like is if we go all the way to the right-hand side of the curve, that last 20-to-1 part, that 20%, the majority of the area under that curve is contained in that section. In fact, 80% of it is contained in that section. So let's have a look at some of the other places it plays out. Now, why he really started applying this was, as an economist, he realized that 80% of the wealth in the village that he lived in was held by 20% of the people. I mentioned there before that 20% of his crops produced 80% of the crops themselves. So 20% of the plants and the flowering and the vegetable plants produced 80% of the crops. In the world, 20% of the space on the world will produce 80% of the food that we use. Let's go to the clouds. 20% of the clouds produce 80% of the rain. How about thieves? 20% of the thieves will make off with 80% of the loot. What about in your team, in your business? And maybe you've seen this in other businesses where you've been involved in that. 20% of the team that you're part of will produce 80% of the workload. What about your marketing? If you're not measuring your marketing, you probably don't even know this number. Maybe this is going to be enough sort of impetus for you to start measuring. But 20% of your marketing is going to generate 80% of the leads or people who are interested in your business. 20% of the products and services that you produce, sell to the market, generates 80% of your revenue. And we're going to look at this as a specific strategy as we're going through the series here. 20% of your customers make up 80% of your complaints. And I bet you know exactly who they are. And we're going to actually have a look at them as well, so as you can be clear on them in terms of finding more of the ones that don't do that. I've stated this before in the intros, 20% of businesses make it to their 5th birthday. In other words, 80% of businesses fail. You're getting the point here. This is a universal process everywhere. 20% of your clients produce 80% of your profits. Now, this is really key with what we're going to be doing with some of these principles and strategies in this process. So as you can see on the curve down that back end, what we're looking to do is find where, if we were to consider the ocean, we've got this whole ocean out there, and there's certain places where you can put an oil rig and sink the particular part of the oil rig, the shaft that goes down into the sand, to tap into where the oil is. We're going to focus on, in your business, with your clients, in your marketplace, what is that sweet spot, that 20% that's going to give you 80% of your profits. Let's rip in.